I posted this article from George R.R. Martin, most notably the writer of Game of Thrones series, or the series that Game of Thrones was based on. And in it, he talks about why science fiction is dominating everything right now. And I have been talking about this since I started the video blog, and since I started doing the Monster panel, even before Black Panther. And he talks about how science fiction was first considered, or anything with dragons, space travel, probably vampires and werewolves, and all that stuff, was pretty much for kids, or considered something for kids, and that's how that has changed now. So I kind of feel that it's not just a black thing, that some black people feel that science fiction is for children. It's just I have to get my talking points up so that when I engage them, I can make them think faster, because it's really just a phase. It's something that we weren't fully exposed to very early on, especially, us who are more influenced by seeing characters like us in stories. I mean, we definitely, enjoy Star Wars and enjoy the Star Trek and things with light diversity, you know what I'm saying? But real deep diversity is really only 10 years old in terms of on a large scale. Yes, we had Samuel Delaney and Octavia Butler and Stephen Barnes in the 80s and the 90s, but you could count the writers on probably one hand before 2000. And now there's hundreds of us. They come up with a list of top science fiction writers, and my name don't pop up, which I'm only going to start getting frustrated with probably in the next year, because I do think I have a good enough catalog to make somebody's list. But I'm open for that, But now they can do 100, and then there's still people like me that's not on the list. And when I say people like me, I'm a writer with 12 or more books, So I'm not, a beginner by any means, because writing one book is like, wow, and then getting a publishing deal for that is still wild, even if it's vanity publishing, as long as you ain't paying your money, that's a different level of publishing. You got somebody that say, hey, I'll publish a book. But anyway, I'm just, using me as an example, because I'm not really mentioning any of my books. You go on my website, you go on Amazon, you check them out. But I am mentioning me because I'm an example of how many black science fiction writers there are. We have, I'm going to count Florida LitCon as a black science fiction convention, but we have one in Atlanta, and I think there's going to be one in New York. I'm not sure, when it's just straight black science fiction. Now, does science fiction include comic books? Hell yeah. So I'm going to say that, the 10 or so black comic cons around the country are also black science fiction conventions. So in that regard, we actually have more. And these, I don't know how old Ekbach is. I got to research it. This isn't a written article. So when I do my blogs, especially in my car, I have little notes, but I don't have full complete notes. But I'm gonna guess it's 15 years old. Now, it may go back to the 90s, so don't shoot me. But black science fiction is relatively new on the scene, and so its readers and black people, being its first primary audience, are still new, and it's okay. White sci-fi, Western sci-fi was 20 years old, and they were still arguing that it was for children. So we may catch up faster, but it's okay for us to go through a phase where we don't value it. or don't see the value for adults. Now, in this takeover that George R.R. Martin is confirming that I have been talking about is includes science fiction for adults. It would not be a takeover if it was just for kids. What makes science fiction a takeover, right? What makes science fiction so important to the world is that it is scientific speculation. Like, I talk to people about what science fiction fully is. It's all of those questions of what if, right? What if, there was a black CIA agent undercover who left the CIA and trained a street gang to be a responsive urban military, to be able to react when young black children are getting shot by the police. That would be sci-fi. That's one question. That is a book, Spook Who Sat by the Door, right? Oh, now what if this, hadn't happened, or it didn't happen this way? Revisionist history. I always tell people, well, what if the Native Americans would have cut off Christopher Columbus' head and everybody on his ship? Wow, that's an amazing story. He would have never gone back to Spain. The Queen would have thought he fell off the damn earth. They would have probably believed the earth is flat for another few hundred years, or a few years, maybe 10 more years, right? Look how long it took us to go back to the moon. But we proved the moonwalk, right? But yeah, that would have been, if this would have happened, right? And then the third one is if this goes on, if this continues to go on. I have a story called American Refugee. One of the big popular questions on social media is, what would you do if slavery was to come back? That's a wild, silly question, I guess, but a necessary question to make you speculate. But when you talk about global warming and what if Florida sinks, those are the sci-fi questions. You play those out. What if an earthquake hits Harlem? That's my series, the Harlem Shake. Okay, so all of those are sci-fi questions, but they're also the initial questions of an engineer, a civic engineer. Those are questions that the civic engineer would ask. Global warming, they play those scenarios out so that way politicians and lawmakers and city planners can design their cities on. They can also plan for disasters. So if the levees break again, they can play that scenario out. What will people most likely do? Which direction will people need to leave before they get out of the city? All of that is sci-fi speculation. All of that can be in a book. All of that can be something that somebody writes down just to speculate about. Again, sci-fi speculation, sci-fi book, right? Now, where else does sci-fi go? Sci-fi goes, what if? The future, right? The future is all what ifs, okay? Because the future hasn't happened yet. So as a futurist, right, all I'm writing about is speculation about the future. Now, where does black sci-fi fall in, and why is science fiction important for, I guess, diverse science fiction important for everybody? Well, because if you want to do something that includes everybody, you have to have representatives from everybody to be a part of the planning committee. So if we're going to build a space elevator, sure, Japan can say, hey, we're going to build our space elevator. Okay, maybe you don't need anybody else's approval, right? They're trying to have a space elevator to get to a space station that they feel they want to have, that rotates, that's in space, that kind of pushes you through the atmosphere, because there's a lot of fuel lost on getting out of the atmosphere. And if you could just get something that lifts you out of the atmosphere, then that would save a lot of fuel. So they're trying to build a space elevator. I know it sounds crazy, but Google it. You understand the concept. Anyway, when you're dealing with science fiction or space travel, that's all sci-fi. We're talking about The Martian. You're talking about Gravity, right? I would throw Interstellar in there, but that got little fantasy towards the end. But again, why is it important for black people to be a part of the discussion? And I'm saying black people, but I'm really making a case for all people, right? So why would you need a diverse board? Because everybody's vote matters. And if you want everybody to be considered, then the best way to do it, I've always found, is to have representatives from everybody. So having a diverse group of writers write in science fiction improves, because we get it improves the quality of the whole genre, right? So we get ideas from other people that we never thought of before, right? Now, I still think the 3-arc storyline is something that other cultures don't do the same as they do in Western literature, but that's not such a big deal, and it's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is something like The Wandering Earth. I use this example a lot, and I should start using Godzilla, but I'm going to use The Wandering Earth again today. It's a story that came on Netflix, I think around June, May or June, right? And The Wandering Earth is your regular story of a comet coming to hit Earth. And when the comet threat hits Earth, it's not told through the Western eyes, so you don't see Ben Affleck and Armageddon, or what's the other one, Deep Impact, where the comet actually hits Earth. You don't have that type of panic going on, because the story is told through Chinese eyes, right? Through Chinese characters, through Chinese imagination. So when they think of it in the same way they think of in martial arts and dealing with any type of threat. You counter the blow and move it out of your way, or you move out of the way of the blow. So the Wandering Earth does the same thing with the comet or the meteor. I forgot what it is. But when the comet comes, they put engines, or the threat appears, they put engines on the Earth and move the Earth out of the way. They adjust the Earth's rotation and allow the comet to continue on its trajectory and miss the Earth. That is amazing. That is not something that Western science fiction does, because Western science fiction is, blow, counter blow. Strong offense is the best defense. So they would have you go out and, punch first, hit that comet, show it who's boss. And I think Native Americans might have something else. Africans may have something other than that. I don't know, maybe Arabs and Europeans may think alike. They're the war people on the earth, war cultures. But and that's slanderish, but I could support it, trust me. But anyway, I'll just say my opinion, right? But yes, so even in one of my stories, this is self-promote here, I have a story called The Church of God in Space. And in that story, as the comet is approaching, the people get on ships to go to another planet. And while Earth uses the same strategy as in Armageddon, which is to destroy the comet threat, when they get to the other planet and they approach the same threat, the people on the planet use a different strategy and make the planet translucent. Do I say translucent? Transparent? Whatever it is, where something can pass through something else. Okay? And that's what they allow the comet to do. They don't adjust the comet. They make themselves. Now, I don't know where that comes from, but I do know it comes from me, and I'm an African American. So that's that. I actually want to do a full blog about. So that was just that one theory that came from me, and then to show you how differentiating, how different cultures can produce different scenarios. Yes, people will argue that if you ask people, 20 people, they'll all come up with different strategies, blah, blah, blah. I could have used my alien invasion stories, because as much as we like to talk about diversity, there's only diversity in Western alien stories is what the aliens look like and how they get here and how the heck they're going to kill us. And that's not diversity. That's variation. Diversity is like Zorro, Taylor, Alien Avengers, where the aliens are black people and they come down here to clear up our mess and our racial divide. That is diversity. Anyway, I'm going to do another blog on hip-hop, sci-fi, and what that means, because D.L. Hughley did an interesting video blog, and who else? KRS-One has a very brilliant vision for what hip-hop is and what it brings to the world. So I'm going to just leave that and try to include what D.L. Hughley said with what KRS-One is saying, and then what I'm doing, because I consider myself from the very early on a hip-hop horror filmmaker and a hip-hop science fiction writer. So don't get it twisted. I ain't making none of this up. You can look and see what I've been doing and what I've been trying to do. So anyway, yeah, that concludes it. That's why I think science fiction is dominating, because it's very important literature. Sure, we need to know what to do if this guy cheats on us, or what to do if she cheats on him, and our urban romance literature is important, but we're approaching an era where science fiction becomes very, very important, or scientific questions. Our environment is threatening us. Our societies are reaching a pressure point. So when we're dealing with overpopulation, other planets become more important for the average person to talk about. We also living in a science fiction world where we have cell phones that allow you to talk to people on the other side of the planet at the same time and have conference calls with people from all over the planet. This is a science fiction world, or this is a world that science fiction dreamed about, and we're living in it. So a lot more people are able to access and partake in that. We have robotic trucks that are delivering fuel all over in certain parts of the United States. So again, we're living in that world. I know I talked too long, but I'm a science fiction writer. I'm talking about science fiction. So you got to give me a little bit. All right. Talk to you later. Peace.